Judge, imagine a child lying on a hospital bed. Their life depends on a treatment that could save them. The doctor could save the child, but the parent refuses because of fear, misinformation, or belief. Should the child suffer or die because of someone else's decision? We on the proposition side says no. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the leader of proposition team, and we strongly support this motion. We believe that when it comes to medical treatment for minors, the final decision should be rest on the doctors, not the parents. So why is this so? Because doctors are trained to save lives, and the children have fundamental rights to receive proper medical care, and a right that shouldn't be overruled by emotion, culture, or belief. In our world, medical professionals have a final say in the child's treatment. Parents are still involved. They can also express their concerns and preferences, but the final decision is based on the medical expertise and what will best preserve the child's health. In this world, children are protected from harmful decisions driven by fear, misinformation, or religion. Every child gets the treatments they medically need to survive and recover. However, in the opposition's world, parents have a final say, even if the choices go against the medical advice. This allows the personal belief or emotion to override the scientific judgment. A parent could deny a life-saving operation, reject vaccines, or delay treatments for personal reasons, and the doctor would be forced to stand by helplessly. In that world, children risk unnecessary suffering and even death because not because treatment are not available, but because it wasn't allowed. Our world protects children's rights, safety, and future by ensuring they're trained by professionals who are guided by ethics and evidence, makes the life or death decisions. It saves lives while still respecting the parental's inputs. Our first argument will be doctors are trained for objective to save the child. So doctors are professionals who make the decision based off of their learning of science, ethics, and best interests of the patient. They're both bound to they are both to the doctors are bound to do no harm. Parents, on the other hand, while loving and caring, often lacks the medical knowledge needed to make complex health decisions. Some parents refuse vaccines or blood transfusions for religious reasons. Others delay emergency treatments out of fear or misunderstanding. In those situations, a doctor's role is not to disrespect the parents, but to protect the child's life and safety. Um, if our second argument will be the children have the right to have proper medical care. Children cannot always speak up for themselves or understand the consequences of medical choices. That is why adults and society have a duty to protect their health and the well-being. If parents refuse treatments the doctors deem necessary, the
POI.
child will become a victim. Yes.
You said that these doctors have the rights and they should disregard their beliefs and religions. But aren't you basically taking away the rights of these parents and their children because they believe in something and you're forcing them to not believe in it or follow it?
We're not forcing them to not believe in some kind of religious or cultural belief. We're saying that doctors have a better chance for the child's to have a proper medical care because they have more knowledge on those in like this the consequences of medical choices. I'd like to continue. So if there have been real cases where parents refused chemotherapy for their child, like with cancer, leading to unpreventable deaths. So a child rights for life and proper treatment should not be dependent on like someone else's emotions or thoughts. This impact will be by giving medical professionals the authority to make the final decision. We uphold children's basic human rights and the right for health and the right for safety and even the right to live. So for the safety, rights, and well-being for every child, we proudly stand with the proposition to affirm this motion.
Panels, we see that on our side of the house, our model is balanced. We see that on our side of the house, medical professionals give recommendations and informed opinions, and parents still must make decisions when consulting with the doctor. If a parent's decision endangers the child, which is clear medical neglect or abuse, there are already existing laws that allow medical intervention. For instance, CPS. We as the opposition believe that this model protects both the child's safety as well as the family's autonomy. We say that the doctors still need to give advice, but in the end, the final say is in the parent's decision. Doctors are just there there to inform them. Before I get into my arguments, I would like to state a rebuttal. The proposition stated that parents might refuse treatments because of religion. Panels, we say that refusing treatment because of religion or personal belief is already most likely covered under the existing laws that protect children. If a parent's decision is clear that if it's clear that a parent's decision endangers the child's health or well-being, doctors again can step in through things like CPS and others existing laws that protect these children. Now I'd like to continue with my argument. My first argument is that parents protect the kid as a whole. Parents, we say that doctors are trained to heal bodies, not raise children. Every decision they make is based on medical outcomes, such as what keeps the person alive, what will cure the sickness or disease. Raising a child as a whole is a different story. Raising a child isn't just about the physical aspects, but it's also about the person as a whole. Parents are the ones who can protect those deeper values, like identity and many more. We say this for a number of reasons. First, we say that medicine cannot define what's best for the child's life. We say that all the doctor cares about is survival. Doctors focus on physical recovery, but parents understand the bigger picture. They understand what makes their child comfortable and uncomfortable, their mental health and their well-being in general. For example, in a scenario, the doctor will suggest and advise the parents to do an invasive or aggressive treatment simply because it's counted as medically effective. The
Go
parents will
on.
take into account, please be patient. The parents will take into account the stress, anxiety, and emotional toll that comes with it. Basically, in short, doctors treat patients and parents nurture their children. So after that, we say that if we let medical professionals always have the final word, we give them an unchecked amount of power. Doctors will have the authority to disagree on what's best, have biases, or can choose convenience over the child's well-being and comfort. Parents are necessary for balance. Parents have the ability to ask questions, ask for a second opinion, and again, protect the well-being of their child, both physically and emotionally. Second, we say that parental authority makes sure that there is accountability. Panels, we say that the parents are the ones who care for their child before, during, and after treatments. They are the ones who manage their children's emotions, and they are the one who comforts them when they are scared or upset. They adjust their lives around their child's needs. When we give the full control of medical decisions to the doctors, it turns family decisions into hospital procedures that strips the parents of all agency and makes treatments cold and impersonal, which is horrible for the well-being of the child. My second argument is that protective measures already exist. Panel, you say that there are already protective measures that are in place in case of a medical harm or neglect. The team proposition might assume that giving parent power will put the child at risk, but we see that this is simply false. Firstly, existing child protection laws already exist and are ready to step in when required. We said that if a parent's decision is proven to harm the child or neglect and endanger the child, agencies like CPS can step in immediately. These systems exist to prevent abuse or neglect of these children. What that basically means is that medical professionals already have the duty to report or act on something when there is real danger that exists. But beyond that, a lot of medical decisions are not about harm. On our side, they're about giving. On our side, it's about giving personal comfort, values, and preferences. Giving doctors the final say in every case just means that you assume that parents are incapable of taking care of their child. It replaces cooperation with control. Our side is simple. Our side protects the value and importance of the balance between doctors giving advice and parents making the final call. Panel's proposition paints a picture that parents are reckless and incapable of making the right medical decision, or that doctors have to take over to save the child. We are here to tell you that the image that they try to paint is exaggerated and unfair. Our system allows doctors to step in when real harm exists. At the end of the day, panels, this debate isn't about choosing parents or doctors, but it's about the well-being of the child and the balance that has to come with it. Our side protects the child without taking away any rights, because when it comes to a child's well-being, working together works better than having complete control on one side. In conclusion, our team believes that this motion should and will fall. I hereby rest my case.
Before moving into the arguments, I would first like to rebut the previous speaker, the leader of the opposition. First, she talked about that there are systems such as CPS that allows the doctors to interfere when parents make detrimental choices to the children. However, even though there are systems such as that, then why can't we not just allow the doctors make decisions? We believe that the opposition did not properly prove that it is better for the parents to make the decisions than the doctors. So we believe that the whole decisions should be made by the doctors. Also, about the parents protecting the children's identity, how can the medical methods change their children's identity at the first place? It is true that the parents are nurturing their child and protecting their child for their whole life, but doctors do try to protect their emotion and physical status as the emotional status also affects their children's comfort. We believe that because the doctors care the comfort emotional comfort of the child, especially when they're a child. Because children are very weak and vulnerable, doctors for children even try more to care their emotional comfort, since they can get easily emotionally hurt, and they can get worse easily. So now moving on to the arguments, which is about biased decisions. First, as proof from our Prime Minister, doctors have professional knowledge, and they're also rational when they make decisions because they need to help and save the children. On the other hand, parents have bias and sometimes can be irrational. I will give two main explanations of the situation: A, about emotional choice, and B, about financial choice. First, about emotional choice. If there are normal and proper parents, they always love their child. It is good that they love their child, but when this emotional becomes too much, it may bring emotional and irrational choices. For example, let's say that a child was almost dead and could only maintain his life by using external devices because he cannot breathe by himself. Then the doctor will recommend to let him pass away, as maintaining his life will be very tiring as exhausting for the child itself. However, the parent chose to rely on external devices just to make him live a bit longer and see him a bit longer, even though it will be painful for him. Even though this is the worst case, smaller, yes?
You said that the parents are gonna do irrational things, and they should just let the doctors do everything. But then, like, the doctors don't consider what the child might want and the child emotionally, but these parents do. So how can you say that these doctors should have all the power, even though, like, they don't really care about the child's emotions or anything?
Okay, first about doctors carrying the child's emotion. From my rebuttals, I already proved that doctors already care about child emotion because it is also related to their physical status and they're very vulnerable. And second, about why the doctor should have all the power, because the parents may make irrational choices when they become too emotionally overwhelmed. So to continue, it will make the child painful. So loving their child is obviously good, but it is an emotional distraction when major medical decision that changes a child's life. Next, about financial choice. Even though money is very important, saving lives and making children healthy is the more important thing. However, some irrational parents choose detrimental choices just because of money. This may not be so common like the first example, but it may happen for poor people or the poor countries. So at the worst case, the children may even die or the situation may get even worse than before. To prevent this, doctors need to make the final choice, as it will be irreliable and not economically biased. Moreover, they may have other beliefs such as culture and religious values. This may also block some methods that can actually save the children's life. We do agree that these beliefs also should be respected, but we believe that saving children's life and their safety is the most important thing. As our Prime Minister mentioned, we are not forcing them to believe it, but we're just asking them to change their perspective for a short amount of time. So, Judge, we all agree that the health of the child is more important, then the doctor should be the one choosing, not the parents. Thus, I'm never more proud to propose.
Panels, we as side opposition are not saying that doctors should not guide or inform decisions. In fact, they should, because they'll guide these parents to understand the medical situation at hand. But final say must lay with those who understand the child's values, upbringings, and well-being, which are all just important as the physical treatment itself. Healthcare is about human beings, not human bodies. Treat the patient, not just the disease. Doctors and parents should work together to combine expertise and moral context instead of just giving doctors full final dictatorship and authority. Proposition world sounds too logical, telling us to only trust experts, not emotions, but it misses the most important truth in healthcare. It's not just biology, there's also identity, values, humanity. If we remove parents' final says, we risk creating a world where cold logic of medicine dictates families' voices, meaning and moral agency. We are for a system where expertise and empathy work together instead of commanding the other. Now let's make a couple of rebuttals. They said that doctors are trained to save life and bound to do harm. Yes, doctors are trained to save life, but saving a life is not always the same as doing no harm. They're trained to preserve the body, not always the person. Their success is measured in the biological survival, not in emotion or morally. Sometimes prolonging the life is actually what is the harm. Forcing treatment that causes trauma or pain, for instance, in an incurable disease. The phrase "do not harm" is a guideline that's interpreted in a moral context, which only parents are able to provide. And these moral questions and decisions are those that belong to parents to decide what's doing no harm in their child's context. Harm isn't only physical, it's also emotional and moral. their emotions is actually what empowers their children in such a harsh situation. And they have also stated that parents make irrational choices, but they just assume that parents are reckless or ignorant. But in reality, parents are actually the most invested stakeholders in this scenario, and especially in their child's well-being and survival. They have the incentive to make the best decisions on their child's behalf. And they've also stated that if there are risks, why don't we just give doctors full authority? If we give doctors full authority, we risk overlooking the moral and human context of the patients, and also strips the parents of autonomy in all cases. Because safeguards aren't substitutes for parents, they're safety nets, not systems of control. These safeguards exist to step in when parents are clearly endangering the child, which is a rare exception as not daily interventions. That's why we maintain the balance of doctor interference only when necessary. Now let's move forward. Parents aren't just caregivers; they're the moral, emotions, and legal guardians of a child's life. They're the ones who make the decisions because children are still minors and legally aren't able to make them. They make them on behalf of their own voice. A child's health is not just a clinical condition, it's mixed with family, faith, and emotion. And a medical professional might treat the body, but parents treat the person as a whole. Emotional and moral decisions belong to families, not institutions. Let's talk about the key stakeholder who lives with these consequences, right? When a child survives but with trauma, pain, or permanent damage, it's not the doctor, not the hospital, not the government that lives with the outcome. It's the patient, it's the family that suffers. Doctors will move on to other patients, but parents do not. Not only do they feel an immense amount of guilt, but who stays up caring for that child every day? Who pays the bills and who carries that guilt forever? That's right, the parents do. How can we justify giving the final power without final accountability? Our side is simple. People who face the consequences should have the authority. Authority without responsibility creates a moral detachment in medicine, treating bodies, not people, making the human story behind a patient become invisible. Parents should be the ones making careful, informed human choices because they're the ones who will have to live with the outcome forever. In the long run, families will maintain agency and stability even after the treatment, and they'll build more trust with doctors as trusted advisors for cooperation instead of dictators. Proposition World is based on authority without accountability, as doctors decide but don't endure. We win because our side ensures accountability and empathy through reinforcing responsibility, through giving powers to those who face the consequences, ensuring more responsible and ethical decisions. Panels, that is why, in conclusion, my team and I believe that this motion should and will fall. Thank you.
So as a government, we have two main things in my speech. First, rebuttals, and second, clashes in this debate. So let's begin with the rebuttals. So on opposition's side mentions that doctors are there just to give advice, and we're trying to create a world that where doctors have all the power, all the authority. However, this is not true. Parents are opposition mentions that parents are the ones who should protect the children, and they are the ones who are raising the child and take care of them, so they have the most stake, and therefore they should have a lot of power in raising in the decision making of the treatment. However, this debate is not about raising child, and it is rather about saving a child's life. So in the moment of life and death situations, emotion rather than emotions, we should focus on like the more practical aspect of the problem, so we can actually save the life. If the child is not there and the child is dead, nothing will matter. Emotion or anything will not matter, because you basically can't do anything for the child. Yes, we agree to the point that opposition makes about that the childs are the one who understand, the parents are the one who understand the child the most. So this is why our case is like what our case is better than opposition's case, because this is why they should suggest or ask doctors and ask for the doctors to have like a guide for, like, for example, my child is like this, so it'll be very it'll be very thankful if you could like have the treatment like direction set like a little bit like less harsh or more harsh, so the child can actually recover. So we're not saying that doctors should have every power and all authority, but they should be the one who should be making medical decisions, which are often final. Instead, we're saying that doctors should be the one, as I mentioned previously, making final decisions, and we are completely open to parents engaging in the process, as I mentioned, like suggesting the direction for the treatment. Opposite saying that we make a world, opposite saying that we make so. Op saying that they will make a world that both sides will work together does not stand, because we're not banning parents' opinion, like parents from delivering their opinions to the doctors. Also, there are some exceptions where parents need guidance from the doctor, especially when they're young and they're not that experienced. So moving on to my clashes about children having less pain and suffering. As stated by the previous speakers, um, medical experts are the doctors, and this is why they should have the final say in making decisions about treating the child. In opposition's world, parents will often make emotional decisions since they want to see their child for a little bit longer. However, since they're not professionals, they will often make wrong decisions, which most of the time will make the child suffer because it's either one, not the right treatment for the child, or two, the treatment they want will not work. In our world, medical professionals who can make the best choice for the child, both medically and physically, because they're the ones who will be supporting the child for the longest and be the ones who are actually taking care and actually supporting the child when they're in the hospital, when they're getting treatment. Therefore, doctors should be the ones who have the final decision, but also we encourage the parents to actually engage with the doctors and try to help the child recover quickly, minimizing pain and suffering. So we take this debate home because we actually help the child get better quickly with less pain and less suffering. Proud to propose.
When a child is sick and scared, the first person they reach for isn't a doctor, it's their parent. And that simple act of trust just shows what this debate's really about. Not who knows medicine best, but who knows their child best. Proposition wants a handful authority to doctors, claiming that they alone can protect a child's life. But our side believes that saving a life is not just about science, it's about care, context, and compassion. And that's why we argue for balance and not control, where doctors give expert advice and parents make the final decision with love and understanding. Firstly, they say that if there are risks, why not give doctors full authority? Firstly, we say that because full authority removes accountability and empathy. Doctors are trained in medicine, not understanding every family's beliefs or emotional reality. And yes, they can identify risks, but only parents weigh those risks against their child's values, comfort, and faith. And we're not saying that doctors shouldn't act in emergencies. They already can. In situations where a parent's refusal clearly endangers a child, laws already follow medical or state intervention, and that's why our side is more practical. We preserve professional input and family rights without creating an all-powerful medical system. Second, they argue that doctors are trained to save lives and do no harm. While that's true, but do no harm is about the body, not always the heart. Doctors see numbers, survival rates,
POI,
and test results. Yes, what's your POI?
we already rebutted that doctors also care about the patient's emotional status because the
Okay, I
children are more
understand. I
vulnerable.
understand. But the doctors will focus more on their health and they will care less about these emotional things. So these people might not be able to like emotionally withstand it. Because if the doctors tell a patient that, oh, something's gonna happen to you, something bad's gonna happen to you. And doctors are also mainly trained for biological survival and not this. So now I'll be continuing. So parents see their child's personality, fears, and hopes. And a purely medical decision might save a life biologically, but it will destroy it emotionally or spiritually. And not all doctors are perfect or agree with one another. Mistakes happen a lot. Bias
POI.
exists and rejected, and sometimes hospitals act under policy pressure. Our model provides a safeguard, and parents act as the human conscience of the system, ensuring that their child is treated not just as a patient but also as a person. Third, they claim that parents might make the wrong decisions, and yes, that can happen, and we acknowledge it. But rare mistakes don't justify removing every parent's right to choose. That's like saying one bad driver means
POI.
nobody should drive again. Rejected. That's why our side proposes balance and not absolute power. Doctors still guide with professional knowledge, and parents decide with compassion. And when a parent's decision clearly becomes harmful, the state steps in. Our system already allows that protection without stripping families of their role. Fourth, they said it's about the child's biological health and not their well-being. And that's exactly what's wrong with their model. Health is not just
Last
biological,
chance.
it's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. A child who survives physically but grows up traumatized or disconnected isn't healthy. Parents are the ones who provide that wider sense of well-being and making sure that their child is not just alive, loved, but also understood. And in the end, proposition's world gives control to doctors and leaves families powerless, but our world builds compassion, not conflict. So under our case, doctors use their expertise to guide decisions, and parents make choices grounded in love and understanding. So what we say is that the state only intervenes when real harm occurs, because medicine can heal the body, but family heals the heart. And when both work together, that's when a child truly has their best chance to live and live well. Thank you.
Motion that this House believes that the final say in medical treatment of minors should belong to medical professionals instead of parents, and we as side opposition are proud to stand for the people who actually live with the true consequences of these treatments. This debate was never about who knows more science, it's about who understands the child the most. Proposition built their world on expertise, logic, and control, but we built ours on empathy, accountability, and care. When you weigh those both of those worlds, their one may treat the body, but we save the person, ensuring they actually have a life worth living for. Side proposition frames doctors as more rational, trained, and bound to do no harm. But that logic fails when you ask what even is harm. We have proven that our world creates a system where healthcare isn't just about keeping you alive, it's actually ensuring that you have a life worth living in the end, especially as children. In our world, parents don't reject expertise, they humanize it using their emotions to complete logic as a balance. 2, on consequences and accountability. When treatments ends, doctors move on, but families physically and mentally cannot afford to. Who will pay the bills? Who will stay up at night? And who carries the biggest burden forever? Not the institution, it's the parents. Authority must follow accountability, and their world gives doctors final power without final responsibility. So our world ensures that those who live with the outcomes make the choices. 3, safety, and authority. They have stated that parents make irrational decisions based on their emotions. We have said that yes, some do. That's why there are systems in place as safety nets to stop abuse and neglect. But our world also has checks and balances. Theirs destroys the balance by giving them absolute power to one side, which are doctors. We protect both children and trust, but they protect only control. Panels. Safety does not come from centralizing authority, it comes from shared accountability. When parents and doctors cooperate, families will end up trusting the system. But instead, when doctors rules, families resist, creating mistrust, defiance, and worse outcomes, which their side talks about. That is why, in conclusion, my team and I believe that this motion should and will fall. Thank you.
2 things in my speech: first, rebuttals, and second, world comparison. First, about rebuttals. Rebuttals about humanities and protecting children. As mentioned before, doctors do care about the children's emotion as it is directly related to their physical status. We keep mentioning that doctors even care more as children as they're vulnerable. We believe that the opposition is just doing a parallel debate and not listening to our responses. Second, about surviving with trauma. They said that the parents don't want the children to survive with trauma. Yes, that is true, but are they just supposed to die because they just don't want their trauma? Also, the doctors do have the responsibility towards the patient, so that's why they work so hard. Moreover, the opposition is keep mentioning that the doctors will be the dictator, the doctors have all the authority. However, we are not saying that the doctors will not listen to the parents at all, as our whip mentioned. We are swapping places with doctors and parents from today's world. Parents will say their opinions to doctors, and doctors will consider them and make a reliable and a rational choice. Lastly, they're saying that parents should have the decisions because their emotions are important. Mentioned, they are just saying that it is okay if they die happily instead of being alive with trauma. The opposition is just literally saying that emotions are more important than saving lives. Now, moving on to the world comparison. Our best case is that doctors make reliable, accurate, and rational choices, which saves a lot of children's life. Their best case is that parents make choices when they know the children is because they know children the best, so it helps the children stay healthily. Why we have a better best case is because of possibility. We have a higher possibility because even though the parents know how the children know the children's best, they cannot know what method will be best for the children because it is a medical area. The doctors are experts in this area and they're more professional and knowledgeable than parents. Our worst case is that doctors just do not care about the children's emotional status and just make them alive. Their worst case is that parents cannot make proper decisions because they do not have enough knowledge or it is irrational. We have a better worst case because we have a smaller possibility. We already show that doctors do care about emotional situation of the child. Also, we have a better worst case since the damage is smaller. When we say that both worst cases stands, our case just gives emotional suffer, but their worst case just kills the child, which is way worse. Thus, I am never more proud to propose